Celine Song's Materialists asked the question, would you choose a poor Chris Evans or a rich Pedro Pascal? And we're going to help you figure that out in this video. Maybe. Welcome back to Movies Good, Internet Bad. I'm Corey. That's Shane. This is our review of Materialists, the new movie from Celine Song, who burst out onto the scene with Past Lives, got Oscar nominated? Just
Yep.
nominated? Did they win?
No, did not win.
No, just nominated for Past Lives. Obviously, big follow-up here. Very excited to talk about this movie. Shane, 30 seconds to a minute, non-spoiler first. What were your thoughts on this movie? Because I know for you, you had like Avengers Endgame levels of hype.
This was
going
my
into
most
this.
hyped movie of the entire year because
Okay.
I am a gigantic Past Lives fan.
Yeah.
And so I was very, very excited to see what Celine Song would do in her sophomore film. And unfortunately, I don't think it hits nearly the same highs as Past Lives. I think the concept overall is very strong and the thesis statement is good. And I rooted for that throughout. Like, I was very engaged with what the movie was trying to say, but how it says it and how it arrives at it, I think was pretty messy. There's a bunch of scenes that we'll talk about in the spoiler section that kind of detract from the message or distract from certain pacing elements of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it didn't all fit together. I was waiting for that big aha moment in the end where it all came together, and it just didn't happen for me.
Nope. Didn't happen. Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I think I might have even been a little bit more down on it than you were. It just didn't grab me. I didn't care much about the characters and where their lives took them. I will say though, between the 3 episodes of season 2 of The Last of Us, where Pedro Pascal is in them, and then this movie, I think we've gotten lost in the shuffle a little bit because we see his face everywhere, and it's like, oh, it's just Pedro Pascal again. Dude's a really good actor.
Yeah, he is.
And I thought he carried all of his scenes in this and was
Mhm.
probably the most enjoyable performance in the movie. And I don't think we should take him for granted anymore. And I'm very excited to see him in Fantastic Four and
Yep.
Eddington later this year. He's in 2 more movies. So
Yep, we got the preview for Eddington whenever we saw this one, so
looks wild.
it's stacked cast for that one.
Yeah, big time. But it's Ari Aster, so might be a little out there, and
Yep.
half the people might love it and half people might hate it. But yeah, so let's dive into spoilers now. From here on out, there will be spoilers for Materialists. If you haven't seen it, get the hell out of here, go watch it, and then come back and check us out. Overall story thoughts. Let's start there. What did you think?
Yeah, so the thesis of love is not math. I think that all worked for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dakota Johnson's character thinks, love is just on paper or dating is on paper. And by the end, she discovers, it's not that simple, right? You can have everything that checks all the boxes and it still doesn't work. And I think that was fine. I loved all that. What I didn't love was I felt like 2 things. I felt like the weighting between the love triangle and the matchmaker stuff was maybe about 50-50. And I think it should have been weighted differently. I think it should have been more on the love triangle and less
I agree.
on the matchmaking. And there's a scene in the very end where, she's finally getting together with Chris Evans and they're at this wedding. And then it like pauses the narrative abruptly because we didn't wrap up the Zoe Winters storyline.
Yeah.
And so we got to go finish that, and then we'll get back to the love triangle. And it's like all of that type of stuff just detracted from it all coming together for me. And that's where it really lost me. I get the jokes. The jokes are fine. Like the matchmaking stuff was the humor of it all.
Yeah, of course.
Yep. But it really detracted from that. And then also in the love triangle, I never really felt like it was are her and Chris Evans finally going to get together? Is that going to happen? It felt very like a foregone conclusion that that's how that was going to go.
Yeah.
And I think in a movie like this, even though in the end they'll get together, or at least you hope they will, it at least like throws enough curveballs at you that like you think maybe it won't happen. But in this movie, I never really felt like it wouldn't happen. It felt like it was just a foregone conclusion that would happen.
Yeah, they made it feel like everything was just too perfect when she was in her relationship with Pedro Pascal's character.
Yes. It didn't really feel like a choice between the two. It felt like, well, yeah, this is not going to work.
Yeah. And in the world that we live in, like you said before, we live in a world of algorithms, right? Everything is AI this and Chat GPT that, and a computer can solve all your problems, but it can't solve love, right? That is a beautiful mission statement. And the idea that people, there was a line in the movie, it's like, people are people are people are people are people, right?
Yes.
I
Yep.
love that. There are some good lines
Yeah.
in this script that are obviously well delivered by the characters and everything. But uh, I don't know, man. It just, the movie wants you, and the script wants you to know that Dakota Johnson's character and Chris Evans' character, that's the real love story, right?
Yes.
But then when you actually watch the movie, Dakota Johnson has way more chemistry with Pedro Pascal than she does with Chris Evans,
I thought the same thing.
and it took me completely out of it. But
Yeah. Yeah. No, I felt the same way. You never really got that moment where you're rooting, where, Chris Evans is running down the freeway to go, profess his love to
right,
Dakota Johnson. Like there was
yep,
no big bang moment. And maybe that's somewhat of the point, that it's kind of critiquing the rom com genre in general,
sure,
but it didn't really land. Like I was expecting, like I said, a big moment in the end, and that big moment didn't really occur. Also, did it totally throw you off for the first 2 minutes of this movie when it's like a leftovers ass opening?
so I had a very obnoxious audience to see this film with, unfortunately, and sometimes that happens. Bad luck of the draw or whatever. But when the movie started, there was one very loud woman that was like, "What is this? This isn't the movie."
Oh
Like
God.
they literally like said that out loud. The entire audience was just like, "Shut the hell up, get out of here." But yeah, it was a very interesting. And then they loop back to it at the end, which I thought
Right.
was certainly interesting too. But
Yeah.
um, and the
I
ring thing with the flower, they both did that, right? Kind
yeah.
of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the meh.
Okay.
It feels like a better idea on paper than in the actual film.
Yeah.
I didn't really buy it. Like, okay. I guess I get that it's this social contract that's existed for hundreds if not thousands of years, but like I don't think it added much.
Yeah. I don't either. It felt like, and I don't want to borrow a term from you, but it felt like the script needed like one more draft or one
Yeah.
more revision before it
Oh,
would have been really
absolutely.
tight.
And you get this, right, with sophomore films where a person's coming off this critically acclaimed
Mhm.
thing, they go to make this other thing, they take big swings, but because they were so successful, they don't get as much maybe feedback or criticism as they should.
Mhm.
And sometimes this works out flawlessly. I don't think it
Right.
did here, and I won't blame Celine Song for that. Like she should have confidence in her decisions given what happened with past lives. But I
Right.
just felt like it didn't hit as well here. But again, it's her second film ever. Like Past Lives was her
Ever.
first
Yeah.
film ever. That like almost never happens where you hit that big right away.
Yeah.
And so like it's all learning experience, and this is not a bad film by any
No,
means.
no, 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 no.
And that's it didn't hit as well, but I think there's a lot to like in this one.
Yeah. I think Past Lives is kind of a miracle.
Yeah,
Like for any movie to come together the way that that movie comes together.
yeah,
And I think I got emotional multiple times in Past Lives. I didn't get hooked on anything
I
in this.
agree. I agree. It never like I never felt emotional about this one at all.
Yeah.
I was very transactionally watching it. Can
Yep.
we also talk about the leg surgery? Because that was the most out of left field
Oh
reveal. And I
God.
Chekhov's height extensions. like, I could not
So
believe that was a setup and payoff.
so they mentioned in the beginning, like you said, the Chekhov's thing.
Yeah,
They mentioned
yeah,
the surgery, right? Someone
yep.
talks about it. Uh, I don't know if you watch South Park at all, the cartoon on Comedy
I've
Central,
seen it, but I'm
but
sure there's a reference I will not get.
well, I'm going to tell you. There's an episode of South Park where the kids from South Park, who are all a bunch of tiny
Yeah,
white kids that are in like fourth grade, they can't play basketball as good as the black kids from the town over. So they all get surgery by breaking their legs and making themselves taller to be able to
gotcha.
play basketball better. As soon as I heard the lady say that, my brain jogged straight to that episode of South Park. And then when they actually did the reveal later on in the movie, I was just like, oh
It's
no,
like a big joke.
no, oh
Yeah.
no. And he's like, my brother and I did it together. And I was just like, oh
Yeah, it was this moment that's supposed to be revelatory, and it came across like a joke because of
yeah,
that reveal, and I don't think that that tone shift worked very well. Like,
no.
seeing
And
him do the little shrink down to shorter, like, and they
mm,
were just so okay with it, and I get the point is that, like, it was so transactional that, like, they're handling it like it's business and not
mhm,
pleasure,
sure.
but it felt a little unrealistic.
Yeah. I've been in relationships where they have ended mutually and basically for no reason, right? It's just both people realize, you know what, this shit ain't working. Let's go our separate ways. It's never been triggered by something as melodramatic as discovering something like that, right? There were about 99 other things that they could have pulled from that brought them to that conversation. The fact that they went with that was so bizarre
It
to
kind of,
me.
to me, it betrays the narrative a little bit too, because I think the more powerful statement would be he is perfect and she still
Sure,
can't
yes.
love him,
Yes. Yeah.
right? Rather than finding this flaw and then realizing it, I feel like if he had no flaws at all, he's literally perfect and she's still it's still not there.
Mhm.
Because then it would start to show her character, her growth, right? Of,
Yep.
oh, maybe this isn't just an algorithm, right? Like, maybe, even if he is perfect, like, why isn't this working for me, kind of thing. And I think that would have been a bigger, message.
Yeah. It also felt like, and I don't know, maybe they implied there were some time jumps in there, but it seemed like the romance between Dakota Johnson and Pedro Pascal went from like 0 to 100 in like 20 minutes. It
Yeah.
really moved quickly. But
Yep.
I know that's not the point. The point that they're trying to get to is her growing and realizing that Chris Evans is the one that she's in love with and yada, yada, yada. But
Yep.
that's just how I read it.
Yep. Did you also notice that Steven Spielberg's son was in the movie?
No, no, I did not.
Yeah, yeah, he's in the movie. He's one of the clients, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, he's in Masters of the Air as well. So, like, I
Huh,
recognize him.
okay.
Yeah,
I
uh,
like Masters of the Air. I thought that was
yeah.
actually very good.
Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, the
So,
other plot point that didn't really work for me was the sexual assault thing, because it felt unresolved in the end. It's
mhm.
this big moment that, you know it's making this big statement on how dating is such a risk for women today, and then in the end of the movie, almost nothing about that company changes because of that. I would have
Yeah.
liked to see, if you're going to bring it up, if it's going to be a big plot point, I'd like to see Dakota Johnson's character kind of push the company more towards, you know, making sure background checks. I don't know, something like that. Like, if
Yeah.
it's going to be a big plot point, make it a big plot point. Don't make it like a inciting incident of something and then throw it away, because then it
Yeah.
kind of detracts
I
from the whole message.
The one part about that I did like though was how her boss just like wrote it off. Like she's like, yeah, if you're here long enough, that's going to happen
Yeah,
eventually, and that's like that's sharp
that's
commentary on
correct.
capitalism and
Correct.
well, we
But
don't
then
care
Dakota
if.
Johnson also eventually, like, just kind of forgets about it and she gets a promotion and, like, okay,
And they make you think that she's maybe gonna quit, but not
maybe
really.
not.
Who knows?
That whole conversation at the end felt strange. It's
Yeah,
like, hey, you messed up, go on a sabbatical, take 4 weeks off. When you get back, we're going to promote you and give you all the money in the world because the plot demands it. I don't know.
yeah.
Like, it made no sense.
It's just really fascinating to see so many movies that a filmmaker can put out that are like highly acclaimed, and then the next movie they do
Yeah.
right after that,
Yep.
like look at like a Mickey 17 that we reviewed earlier this year,
Yep.
right? Like
Parasite, perfect
Parasite comes
movie.
out and just crushes it in every
Yeah.
way. And then Mickey 17's kind of a mess. And then the
Yeah.
same thing here. And it's like,
Yep.
I don't know if it's the fact that the studios give these people a blank check and say there are no guardrails here
Yeah.
or what,
I
but
think part of it is the pressure too. It's like, I have to make this bigger and
it's got to be
it,
better than
yeah,
Parasite.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah.
here it felt like I have to make a bigger statement than what I did in past lives, and in doing so, she kind of lost the plot a little bit. But yeah, so a little disappointing given my hype for it. Probably should have seen it coming because of what you just said. Like, it's
Yeah.
very rare to catch every great movie like that is lightning in a bottle, right? Even the
Yep.
the perfect ones. Even, I mean, it is extremely rare for somebody to have like a Christopher Nolan type run where everything's a
Sure.
hit.
Yeah.
Like extremely rare.
The
So,
moral of
you
the
know,
story is to be more like Wes Anderson and just make movies that are kind of all the same, but just work. Wonderful.
sure.
Or
Yeah.
be Denny Villeneuve and just make banger after banger and
Yeah.
go on
Yeah.
from there.
But, you know, I don't take anything away from Celine Song after this, especially because
No,
I
no, no.
feel like the parts that did worked very well. And I know we're still talking about the story, but I thought the direction was incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. Yep.
The long takes that they had, there were a lot of
Mhm.
great shots. The ending with all the bokeh in the background at the wedding was
Yep.
great. She loves herself a New York City stoop for dramatic
Yep.
scenes.
Nice background, little
Uh,
Hey Arnold style there. But
yeah,
I, I,
exactly.
I will say though, to her credit as a director, it takes a lot of confidence in your actors to be able to say, all right, guys, I'm going to put the camera right here
Hmm.
and you guys just go and
Yep.
do your thing. And
That
if
whole
it doesn't work,
restaurant.
we'll do the
Yeah.
whole take over again and we'll
Yep.
figure out a way that makes it work instead of because like to go back to Nolan, dude cuts every like 4 seconds. It's
Yeah.
like
Yep.
rapid fire. Those long takes, they really make you feel like you're there, like you're in
The
it, right?
It felt to me, and this is interesting because Dakota Johnson's in this movie. It felt to me a little social networky, where there's a lot like that
Mm.
restaurant conversation that they have reminds me of the opening of Social Network quite a
Okay.
bit,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
it's just them kind of going back and forth with their thesis statements, but the camera's just chilling, just
Just there.
letting them go, and I loved all that. And you know, we'll get to performance now, I guess, but
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought
Let's get to it.
Pedro was incredible. Thought Chris Evans was good, but it's hard to believe that he's like this struggling guy when he's like looks like a movie star.
Extremely handsome. Like he could have
Yeah.
just been a male model and made a ton of money in New York
Yeah,
and
exactly.
not been in a
He's a
shitty
little
apartment.
too pretty to be that
Yeah,
character.
sure.
Dirty him up a little bit, but like he just looked too perfect.
Yeah,
Like he is as attractive as Pedro Pascal, and I
if
don't
not
think that he
more.
should
Yeah,
be given the character.
yeah.
Maybe
I
more.
think
Yeah.
with him, he's an interesting case because sometimes he ends up in a role where a movie like this where he gets to deliver like a really great monologue at the end
Yep.
and it's like there's a good actor in there or like
Hmm.
you watch him in Knives Out and it's like there's a really good actor in there, but then there are some parts in this movie in particular where he's still doing facial expressions that he did when he was in Not Another Teen Movie 15-20 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's like you gotta stop those. You know,
And
like
it's interesting that you say that because I felt the same way about Dakota Johnson in this movie, where it's like there's little glimmers, and I think Chris Evans is much better in this movie than Dakota Johnson, but
probably,
there's
yeah.
little glimmers where Dakota Johnson really does very well, and you are engaged with her acting and her
Mhm.
emotion,
Yep.
and then there's others where it sounds like she is literally reading off her phone, and it's like there's no,
Yeah.
it's so monotone, there's nothing to it, it's just that's the line, I'm gonna say the line.
Yep. I think when she gets given something that's got some bite behind it.
Hmm.
There's a scene where she's interviewing one of her matchmaker candidates and she gets to kind of like give him some shit over it.
Yeah,
I
I
was
thought
like,
that
"Oh,
was all good.
where did this
Yeah.
come from?" Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe that's kind of the character, is that she's supposed to be kind of sterile, and it kind of fits, but I don't think that that is a strong enough case for it to be the main character of your movie.
Sure. Yeah.
So
At least it wasn't Madam Web. That's all. Like an
we got
infinitely better performance.
all ex superhero movie people
Yes.
and
Madam Web has
B
to
tier
choose.
actors from Succession.
She's got Madam Web's
Um,
got to choose between Steve Rogers and Reed Richards.
yep,
It's a Marvel fest
yeah, and then they
from the
had
folks at
Zoe
A24.
Winters, who is in Succession.
Yep.
Dasha, I forget her name, but she was also in Succession. She played
That's
like
funny. Yep.
Roman's girlfriend. I like to think that this was Sophie's origin story, and that the next person that she dates is actually Logan Roy.
Hey, you love who you love, right? That's that's all I'm going to say. That is the moral of this story. So, um, would you recommend for our listeners who have sat through all the spoilers now
Yeah,
to go see this movie at a theater?
I still think so. I think seeing up and coming directors making statements on things that you don't often see is still worth going out to pursue.
Yeah,
I yesterday I saw the How to Train Your Dragon remake, and then I saw
yeah.
this, and it's like I would much rather see this
Oh,
than the
a
exact
million
same
times
movie
over.
that I saw 15 years ago in
20 of these
ugly live
instead of
action.
one live action How to Train Your Dragon.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, still recommend it. I think there's enough good stuff in there that it's still a solid movie, but this is probably about a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I was gonna give it a 6.5, but Letterbox doesn't let you do that. So that was
It's
about
better
where
than
I
a
fell on it.
3. It's probably a little worse than a 3.5.
Right.
7 out of
Yeah.
10. Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, cool. And anything else?
I don't think so. I,
All
I'll
right.
I'll be seated for whatever Celine Song decides to do next.
100%. We'll be there day one, just like I was for this one. So that is going to do it for this video. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have seen Materialists, drop us a comment below. Let us know what you thought. How did it compare to past lives? Did the romance hit for you? Or is it just a fun date night movie to go escape the real world for 2 hours? If you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We have posted a bunch of stuff lately. Shane reviewed How to Train Your Dragon. I did a review that had 3 movies in it because I'm an idiot. Talked about The Life of Chuck, Bring Her Back. There's a ton of stuff on the channel. And the month of June still isn't over. 28 years later comes out later this month. F1 comes out later this month.
Hey, we've got Elio. Don't forget that one. Everyone
The
seems to be forgetting it.
everyone's favorite frozen pizza from when they were a child, Elio's. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot coming out, and then once we get to July, Jurassic World, Superman, Fantastic Four. We're talking pretty much nothing but movies for the entire summer, unless a TV show comes out of nowhere that we don't know about. But be on the lookout for all of those things and so much more. And until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video.